Oh, this is you. I'm sorry. Oh my God. I know. I was hoping I could
Okay, welcome everyone this evening. We're going to begin as soon as our secretary is ready. I hope you all had a very nice week. I'm going to do the roll, but I don't have all of the new people, so at the end, if I miss you, just let me know. Okay, Michael Aldinger,
Here.
Mike Anderson, Gretchen Braun, Justin Bish, Christina Boggs, Ruth Kingarasha, Gina Chang, Mark Cannon, Rob Carvello, Dustin Dove, Robin Engel, Adam Perone, Pat Gordon, Nicholas Hahn, Hubert Hines, Andrew Karasek, Gavin Kieran, John King, Arsh, is that here? Daniel Lersch, Sam Loner,
Here.
Benjamin Lombard, Stephen Lucas, Nick Mann, Haley McClernan, Sean Malloy, Samantha Miller, here, Christopher Morrell, Jose Kaman, Christopher Knott, Ellie Ogelberg, Joanne Olson, here, Greg Plum, Brian Pullen, Kelly Potter, Megan Quinn, Christian Ragland, Valerie Russell, present, Amy Sanders, Philip Slusser, Richard Shermansky, Catherine Smeals, Colleen Smith, Matthew Smith, Michael Smith, Ricardo Torres, Ian Mickery, Michael Wallace,
Here.
Cindy Wong, Austin Wiener. Sorry, I just looked at your Kara Singer, Nicole Zinni. Is there anyone I missed? No. Okay.
Yes. And Chris Caswell.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before we have the adoption of the agenda, we're going to swear in. Okay, the IFC and the MQC reps. So, come up here, please. Thank you.
Alright, just repeat after me. Yo. I have promised to faithfully uphold the Constitution of the University Park Undergraduate Association and to defend the rights of each individual student while working toward the betterment of student life. I shall perform to the best of my ability the responsibilities and duties that have been entrusted to me by the University Park Undergraduate Student Body to the office which I hold. Congratulations.
Okay, moving on to item number 2, adoption of the agenda. Are there any objections to the agenda as it is right now before you? Is President Parasek?
I move to add, I guess we're looking at policy 10. Policy 10, election code 2009, and council elections be brought to the floor by 2/3 due to
Okay. Is there any objections to that? I don't have a copy of that.
should be
You give me 9. Okay. Any objections to adding policy 10 to new business? No? Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? Mr. Cavallo?
I moved that policy 9 to the agenda. It's also,
It is there.
it is on the agenda? Okay, wonderful. I didn't think I put it on there.
Anything else? Okay, agenda is adopted. Moving on to the adoption of the past general meeting minutes, should have received these via email as usual. Any objections to those? Changes? Okay, minutes adopted. Open student forum, are there any students here to address the assembly? Mr. Goodstein?
Hi everyone, I just wanted to kind of give an update on how the Elections and Elections Commission is going so far. Right now, we so far have had a very good turnout compared to last year and previous years for registrations. Registration sign-outs anyway. We've had 20 people so far come by in the last 3 days to pick up packets, which is way ahead of where we were last year. However, still got to urge people to make sure that if they are planning on returning, to come by and pick up a packet. It's 3:32. Also, there are other things that you should be aware of. There are ads and all sorts of types of advertisements going on right now. Check the newspaper, tomorrow there'll be an ad. Check online on the Daily Collegian website, there's ads there. We're going to be doing flyering soon, so make sure you look around and see stuff and point it out to your friends. Lastly, there's a Facebook event out there. There's a link for it right now on the actual elections website, which is vote.psu.edu. If you have not already gone to the Facebook event and added yourself to that event, please do so, and also while you're at it, please invite your friends to that event as well. The more people we have in the event, the more people we can notify about all of the different election events, such as the debates and the candidates and those type of things. So please do the best you can to try and advertise the election. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Goodstein? Okay, thank you very much. Any other students? No? Okay, moving on. Report by the President, Mr. Kierans.
Tonight I went to the Graduate Student Association where they passed a resolution, also in support of legal services, with the idea that they're also in support of any activity fee expenditures necessary to come up with it. I think we call for, I think the plan is, if it does happen, for only a $2 increase to the activity fee, but they didn't specify within the resolution. But it's great to have the support of the Graduate Student Association. That was a good experience to go talk to them. They're really on board with the idea. So as far as that moving forward, that's definitely great. This Monday, a few of you in here, and well, a good amount of you actually went down to Temple with us to check out the Temple campus and to support Temple and in their mission to address the Tuition Relief Act and have the 4 state-related schools included, chiefly Penn State and now Temple on board. I think next what we're planning on doing is heading down to Pitt. So that was very successful. I was glad to see support by IC and NAACP in our efforts. They've been really our partners in doing this, so it's great to collaborate with their organizations. It was on, it's just moving forward. It was in the Temple newspaper, this story the other day. Pitt on Monday mentioned this, our efforts in their paper, even though we haven't had it earlier, they're speaking of what we're doing. So I think it's taking notice at the college level. There's obviously taking notice with our last rally getting statewide. So it's something that I think we need to keep on moving with. Next Wednesday, the Facilities Fee Board, which was a major topic of discussion last semester, will meet for the first time. So we're going to need the 5 representatives appointed by Nick Mance to serve on that board, and we'll be seeing a few different ideas of what will be presented. I'm not sure how many will be presented, but we'll see. So that's definitely going to be something that this organization is going to have to deal with as far as what we support moving forward, what ideas and projects. By this time, by the end of the semester, I guess it'll be, it was only $50 a semester, so I believe that will be $4 million accumulated. So we'll see what projects will come up, be prepared for that to be interesting in the near future. I'd like to thank Alex for coming out. That's great to hear that so many people have signed up for the elections. I hope that you all, if you are coming back, I hope to see that you do sign up and continue on TPUA. I think that you're all very worthwhile, and you've done a great job this year. So let's just keep going. We have a few weeks left in this assembly, and then before elections. So even when the election process begins and all that's undergoing, it's important to be steadfast in what we're doing and continue on. Because we owe it to our duties. So thank you very much.
Questions? Any questions? No? Representative Szymanski?
If we're gonna go to Pitt, are we gonna have to do the same thing we did for Temple, get a bus and allocate money for that as well?
No, I think at this point we can probably. I don't know how major scale any of the details at this point, so I don't want to say anything. But I think we'll do what's necessary, and whatever we do, we'll talk about with this assembly. So we can also drive down there depending on the number of people. So we'll have to see, I guess, moving forward. Sure. And Richard also gave a speech today at the Temple rally, and it was he got his name in the Temple newspaper. So we're really proud of you, Richard. It was impromptu, but I think we have a future governor on our hands. So.
I tried.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay, moving on, special presentations, Project Smokeless. We have Jessica Gottschalk and Jesse Clifford here. So just introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about it, and if you'd stand for questions, that'd be great. You have 10 minutes.
Actually, just a slight correction to that. Jessica's not here, so instead it's Jesse and I'm Sarah. And we're from Project Smokeless, and pretty much what we are is we're a student-led health advocacy group. And our affiliations are with both University Health Services and Colleges Against Cancer. And pretty much our mission is to reduce smoking on campus and improve the health of Penn State students. And in the past, we've sort of got the reputation of being this rebel group who wants to make the entire campus smoke-free. And even though ideally that could be a long-term goal, what we're really working for right now is strengthening the current Penn State smoking policy on campus. So we're here because Damon Sims recommended you as one of the groups that we come and talk to, because for this policy to get off the ground, we need support from the student body, and you guys are representative of the student body. So we're also meeting with Arch. We met with GSA today, and we'll also be meeting with CCSG, just so you know who we're also affiliated with. And just a few statistics before I really get into what we want from you. 72% of Penn State students are non-smokers. And we found this information through a pulse survey that we did in 2007. And of those actually do smoke, 13.3% of them smoke socially. So really only 5% of Penn State students are regular daily smokers. And OPP, this is from Paul Reston who gave us this information, annually spends about $200,000 a year on tobacco cleanup. So that involves not only the cigarette butt receptacles, but also the large machines you see like sucking the cigarette butts off the ground, and also paying 2 full-time employees whose only job is to pick cigarette butts out of the bushes and the landscaping around campus. So, then along with that, Penn State's Office of Human Resources had a list of the top 10 risk factors, and it cites number 5 as smoking, and the projected savings in healthcare costs is about $650,000 if we're able to reduce smoking of both employees and staff on campus. So really what we want from you is that we're trying to find a way to bring all the student body groups together so we can come up with a policy that everybody's sort of comfortable with and we can agree on so we can move forward in strengthening the smoking policy on campus. For those of you who are unaware, the current smoking policy stands and its reference is policy 8032. Smoking is prohibited in any outside area adjacent to a facility whose configuration and or other physical circumstances allows smoke either to enter or affect the internal environment or to unduly affect the environment of those entering or exiting the facility. So that's a lot of words that pretty much say that there isn't a smoking policy, We have no specified footage away from any doors or buildings. It pretty much asks that you step away from buildings so smoke doesn't enter, but there's nothing to actually enforce because there's no distance set outside buildings. So again, what we're asking from you is we're asking for you guys as a group to come up with what you would support in strengthening the Penn State smoking policy. It could be anything from just strengthening how far outside buildings or windows you'd be comfortable with, or even making parts of campus smoke-free. Just if we were to try to move forward on a policy, what you as an organization would feel comfortable doing. And the advantages to this that we're just putting right now is, again, we talked about healthcare costs. Also, in the costs that OPP spends, we obviously wouldn't get that money back, but it would be a way to allocate that money towards better things. And also those 2 employees whose job is solely to pick cigarette butts out of landscaping would have a job that's a little not so degrading for them to do. And we have cleaner air in classrooms, especially residence halls where we get most of our complaints. And it would sort of be encouraging for people to quit if it's not quite as accessible for people to smoke on campus. So are there any questions?
Questions? Representative Lucas?
You guys are asking us to come up with a policy ourselves.
Not necessarily come up with a policy, but give us an idea of what sort of things you would be in support of if we were to come up with a policy of all the student government groups together.
What, in your opinion, what would be a good policy that we could consider and amend? What's a good starting point?
Really, what we're starting for right now is we want to specify a distance outside of buildings.
Representative Knock?
What types of policies against smoking are really put at other universities that you can say?
Ohio State University, their entire medical area or central campus is completely smoke-free. Indiana recently has moved forward to smoke-free.
Iowa also is working towards smoke-free. Basically, we have the weakest policy in the Big Ten because I think everybody else except for Michigan specifies the distance around like a bubble. You know, and Michigan doesn't.
Representative Hines?
How do you plan to enforce it? Like, if you say 25 feet to 10 feet, how do you do anything about the rules? What would it be doing for?
Really, at the point of enforcement right now, we're more concerned about actually getting a policy and figuring out how we're going to do it. What we've seen on other campuses, when you actually specify a distance away from buildings, people are more willing to adhere to it because there's something on paper that they can go back to and someone can say that you have to follow this, rather than what we have now, where technically we do have a policy saying you have to be away from buildings, but there's nothing any one person can cite that tells you how far away you should be.
Other questions? Representative Szymanski?
Yes, you said that you like doing this total ban, or at least some distance, that rooms and the air quality would be better. In what way? I'm not, like, already people smoke outside. How are the classrooms, how's the air quality been affected when you can't smoke inside the classrooms?
Well, for instance, people can smoke. I'm sure you've seen signs. For instance, there's one right outside of Buki right now that says "Don't smoke" in the patio area. That's because when people smoke, like right outside the door, then it gets drawn into the building, like into the classrooms. And I know when I lived in the dorms, you could smell smoke in our room, and like that's really a hazard for people with asthma and other like breathing problems that are exacerbated by smoke.
Further questions? Okay, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, next for 20 minutes, we have Mr. Tom Levins from Rec Sports talk with us. Again, same format.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Director of Recreational Sports here. Talk from notes, and then if you have any questions, once I'm concluded, please feel free to ask. Recreational sports, the mission on our campus here is to provide the university community opportunities to participate in recreation, sports, and fitness activities with an emphasis on fair play, healthy living, and certainly proper social skills. Our programs are a prime example of the continuous engagement opportunities here at the university. Recreational sports on our campus is administered by the Department of Intercollegiate Athletics. All personnel, all facilities, and all upkeep of those facilities is provided through intercollegiate athletics. Components for student recreation on our campus include intramural sports, club sports, fitness activities, fitness areas, team sports, our tennis center, the natatorium, the golf courses, and the ice arena. Funding for recreational sports includes an allocation from the administration, entry fees, sponsorship, an allocation from the UPAC, and funding from intercollegiate athletics. Now, the unique thing about recreational sports, whatever the component may be, is the fact that we have one of the highest, if not the highest, rates of student engagement in any student service on our campus. Not only do we attract tens of thousands of participants to our facilities and our programs, we also employ hundreds of students to work for us. In fact, we have a football official right here that can attest to all the friends he's made from refereeing intramural football. Students work for our areas in a number of ways: ID checkers, desk attendants, grounds workers, fitness instructors, intramural officials, supervisors, and fitness instructors. I'll give you a component review of the various areas. Intramural sports. Intramural sports offers 25 activities throughout the course of the year. Intramurals is open to any student, any faculty and staff, as long as you're in possession of a valid University Park ID card. That's what we use for game admission. Past years, we sponsor team sports, individual sports, dual sports, and special events. Last year, we scheduled in excess of 4,800 contests. It's in 1 year, with a play rate of 89% of those contests. We have popular activities. Certainly, Andrew can attest to it. Flag football is probably number one. This year, we had 382 teams playing 908 games in a 5-week period. And I give you some vision of the scope of our intramural program. We play 36 games a night, 4 nights a week, and on average, anywhere from 12 to 1,400 students participate in a flag football program, team basketball, soccer, volleyball, or softball. So our team sports are very popular, very popular. We just concluded soccer, which we will start after spring break. We had a limit of 275 teams. We filled that in less than 1 day. And in an hour-and-a-half period, we had 117 teams registered. It's a good problem to have so many participants, but with the lack of indoor-outdoor play space, we have to limit a number of our activities. Coming up will be arena football, another popular activity. We have 64 spots for that. We will start that in April. Registration for that begins on Monday. And generally by 9:45, with the doors opening at 8, we are full with 64 teams. So you can see it's very popular. Approximately 20,000 students participate in intramural sports each year. We have about 400 student employees that work as officials, supervisors, and trainers for us. Another component, club sports. There are 70 clubs on this campus right now. Approximately 3,400 participants. Those clubs are a variety of things. A bass fishing club, volleyball, we have a number of them. They practice a total of 450 hours a week in various venues across campus. Our fitness sessions are aerobic classes. We have 132 of those a week. We have 25 instructors that handle that. And we have about 28,000 participants through our aerobics program. Fitness areas, or as everyone calls them now, the gyms. Currently, we have 23,000 members that have a fitness pass. There are 366 and a half hours of available gym time to the universities. Last year, we served approximately 550,000 customers in those fitness areas. If you're interested in using them, I'm sure you've been there. The prime time is between 4 and 8, Monday through Wednesday. Those days, just, I don't care if we have 100,000 square feet of fitness, we still will have lines at those times. The lightest time is any time before 10 a.m. until noon, 1:30 till 3, and any time after 9. And the weekends get less use than any of the other days. We also have another component of team sports, which grew out of our club program. Team sports, rugby and ice hockey. We have 4 teams, 2 men's teams, 2 women's teams. There are approximately 125 participants in those 4 programs. We have the tennis center, those who like to play tennis. We have 4 indoor courts, 6 archery courts, and 7 lighted courts. We have 200 members within the tennis club, and prime time, this time of year, is tough to find. Varsity teams practice from 2 until 7, and the club team practices 4 days a week from 9 until 11. So prime time indoors right now is difficult. Our natatorium and the white building pool serve our swimming needs. The white building pool is open from 6 a.m. until closing for lap swim. The natatorium has open swim Monday through Friday from 7 until 10:30 a.m. to 11 until 2 p.m., 5:30 until 6:30, and 8:30 until 10 p.m. Anytime after noon on Saturdays until closing, which is at 10, and anytime after 2:30 on Sundays until closing. Our golf courses, for those of you who like to play golf. Last year we played 58,000 rounds on our golf courses. Students played 1/3 of those rounds. Okay? Best time to play golf is anytime before 11 o'clock. We can do that. On the weekends, anytime before after 2. Student rates, we have both the blue course and the white course. For 18 holes on the blue course, $31 weekday rates, $43 on the weekends. The white course, $18 for the weekday, $28 for the weekends. We also provide a shuttle service for those of you being at the golf course. We run a golf cart shuttle service. Pick you up right across the street from the Nittany Lion Inn, call the Pro Shop, you can ride to the golf shop. We have instruction available, we have club rentals, and for those of you that are crack golfers, we have demo days. And by that I mean we have manufacturers of golf equipment come in, you can use their equipment, get instruction, Titleist, Wilson, whatever the various club manufacturer is. Those are all advertised on the website. We have Ice Arena, of course, Greenberg Ice Arena, with open skate Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 1:30 until 3, Friday from 7 to 9 p.m., Saturday 1:30 to 3, 8 to 10, and Sunday from 1 to 3. Skate rental is $2. The area can be rented for events. There's no shortage of opportunities on our campus for recreation participation, from basketball courts, to jogging tracks, to aerobic sessions, to racquetball and squash courts, to weightlifting areas, to ice arena, swimming pools, tennis courts. We have it for you. We are committed to providing the best service possible to our community. All right? That sort of sums up recreational sports on our campus. Now, through student government, Gavin and I have had conversations about forming a student committee to provide input on our operation, our facility offerings, and what have you. I believe that committee has become a reality. And it's our purpose with this committee to get user feedback so we can improve our service, our facilities, and the job we do at the University Park campus. If you're a part of that committee, I encourage you to be active in it and bring your concerns to us. Okay? I thank you for this opportunity. I also thank you if you are a participant in any of our programs, either by visiting a gym, playing indoor sports, or being a club member. Thank you, and I hope you continue that support. We are there to serve you. That concludes what I would like to talk about. I would certainly entertain any questions anyone may have on the recreation opportunities on campus.
Questions? Representative Warner?
What's your reaction to the removal of the fields for the Millennium Science Complex, and how is that going to affect the amount of students you can accommodate?
Well, anytime you lose green space, either inside campus or outside of campus, is a critical concern. Now, the Pollard Field at one time was not only an intramural site, but also a club site. It was also a construction site for kinesiology classes. It's unfortunate that the green space is used for campus buildings, but that's just the nature of working at a university. We did gain some additional space over on the Park Avenue fields last fall with the inclusion of what used to be the soccer practice areas and the rugby fields. So we've incorporated that into our play field offerings right now. But it's unfortunate that campus green space is used, but again, we work at a university, it's an educational institution, with educational needs, and those fields are utilized in that nature.
Further questions? Representative Harrison?
What would it take to provide, and by what would it take, how much would it take to provide free or reduced, well, we already reduced that, but for recreational sports, for the gyms and things like that, provide free access for all students. Like I know some universities do, they assess either recreational fee or something like that. How much are we talking that would be needed over and above like what you have here?
Okay, if you look at some peer institutions within the Big Ten Conference, Ohio State University, they have more students than we do. They spent 8 years studying the needs of campus for recreation. They spent $142 million and built a recreation facility in excess of 600,000 square feet. The facility is as large as the East Hall Commons altogether, all of East Hall residence halls together. Okay? Now it was a joint, I should say, there were 3 parties involved in it. Student Affairs, which recreational sports was responsible to on Ohio State's campus, Pedagogy, the Department of Pedagogy, and Intercollegiate Athletics. So there were 3 people that sort of put money up forward. Student fees at Ohio State are $328 a year for as a recreational sports fee that all students pay. All 55,000 students pay. Okay? And they not only have that facility, but they have an adjoining Beekman Field, which was named in honor of a former recreational sports director, which is an outdoor complex with softball, sand volleyball, picnic areas. And they also have a multi-sport type activity area. So they went over and beyond. University of Illinois just recently completed a 2 facility renovation project to the tune of about $82 million, increased their floor space to about 350,000 square feet, and students there pay $324 a year for student recreation fee. So that gives you some idea about how much money, if we were to go in that area. Now, we have satellite facilities. We don't have one big facility. So our costs may be smaller than what those institutions are because they either have 1 or 2 large recreation facilities. But offhand, it would be difficult to give you a magical number, because as sure as I said it was X, it would be X plus Y on the student. We don't make that mistake. But it would be a substantial investment. University of Texas, another peer institution, has about 500,000 square feet that's available to student recreation, and their student fees are somewhere along the lines of $450 a
How much space do you have?
we have a little less than 300,000 square feet overall that we utilize in facilities, but of that, only 103,000 square feet are dedicated to recreation. So compared to the other institutions, we are much less than what you find at a lot of schools. Other Big Ten schools that are moving forward, Iowa's going to a $204 a semester charge for their students as they build a $78 million recreation facility. Indiana is exploring that. The new university just approved a $100 million expansion for their recreation facilities. So other institutions within the conference are moving in that area.
Other questions? Representative Lucas?
To our knowledge, there is an expansion of the hub planned to connect to the White Building. Would that increase the amount of space recreation or just?
Well, that's one of the projects we've looked at. It's been 2 years since we concluded that. There's a definite need within this building for an expansion for a number of reasons. And the committee at the time was charged with looking at the possibility of connecting it to White Building, since there's a recreation facility already there that's used as our club office area. It hasn't been turned down, but the cost was considerably higher than what it was when we looked at it. And the gym space, be it fitness areas and or a gymnasium space, was not that significant for an inclusion in that. Now, I'm not saying that project won't get done. It certainly has some merits to it. But overall, the committee felt that there were perhaps other areas that may be more advantageous to expand.
Representative Lucas?
Just to follow up, are there any specific project ideas you all are considering to expand the amount of recreational services?
Well, right now we're exploring, it's just preliminary right now, an expansion of the IM building. And we've met with an architectural group on some program ideas. And it's the group that built the Ohio State facility, and we know a group out of Columbus. And so we've had some preliminary meetings with that firm about possible expansion. And when you look at our recreation facilities, we serve almost every area of campus. And once we completed the rec hall expansion and realizing that we have a large number of students in the East Halls area, and basically I have to come to our facility, which was built in 1975, and or the White Building, or go down to rec hall, it made sense to look at an expansion of that. As far as outdoor play space, again, we captured 6 additional fields for soccer and for flag football this past fall, which really helped us. We were looking at some additional space adjoining that that would be beneficial to it, expanding the outdoor hall.
We have time for one last question. Representative Knock?
Is there any way that students can articulate interest in possibly changing the format of the system?
Certainly, we're open to any and all suggestions. We have a very successful intramural sport program as far as program offerings. We do have students that come in and want to know why we don't have intramural boxing or ultimate fighting or hang gliding, and we refer them to the club program, obviously. But there's a long history of intramural sports here, which grew out of athletics, intercollegiate athletics. But we'll certainly entertain any idea of new involvements of different activities. But again, the popularity that we have right now when we fill up events as quickly as we do, I just counted a waiting list for outdoor soccer, and right now there's 275 teams registered and accommodated. We have at least 25 on a waiting list, so we're looking at a potential of 300 soccer teams. And these numbers of teams that we have in intramurals are almost as large as any program, if not the largest intramural sports program in the country. As far as you'll find schools that may have 500 basketball teams, and we only have 300. But overall, if you look at all of our numbers, but we would certainly entertain any discussion about inclusion of different events or different activities. Again, I would thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for your participation in any of our areas and support. And please let us know in whatever area if you're doing a good job or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving into old business. None, new business, policy 9. We have an introduction by Chairman Lucas, and we're going to have to bring this to the floor by 2/3, if you would like.
evening, everyone. Does everyone have a copy of Policy 9? It's a very simple document. The Student Activity Fee Board would like to propose a $2 to $5 increase in our student activity fee for next year. Based on the committee's vote, we recommend that UQA endorse this alternative, that we support the increase if we have a commitment on legal services to finance and fund legal services through this increase in the student activity.
Any questions for Representative Szymanski?
Yeah, it says a suggestion of $2 to $5. In your opinion, what's the ballpark really? Like maybe 4, 3, or is it most likely going to be 5?
Doesn't care.
Most likely $2.
Okay.
Representative Karasek?
I see that the committee vote was 4-1-0. What's the no vote rationale behind it?
I could speak for the representative who voted no. Basically, the concern is that we shouldn't be giving an ultimatum about the increase on the student activity fee. Rather, we should engage the student activity fee board on this issue rather than tying our interests to our support or not support of the increase.
Any other questions? Okay. Representative Warner?
I was wondering, since this is sort of going to be an external document, that policies and resolutions.
Yeah, I originally had a resolution, but then I saw on the agenda it said policy, so.
It's a policy because by saying UQA is going to support this, it's binding the 2 UQA votes on the board, whatever way this is agreed to.
Representative Karasek?
My oversight, Mary just corrected me. The first part of the nuisance situation, the fee board has not suggested any increase yet. They haven't discussed any increase. And I know that, I think we gave you that information at steering and then we got confused. So we're going to need to amend that so that we appropriately, I'll work on some amendments tonight.
Right, that was just communication on the part of the representatives.
Yeah, so we'll get that.
Okay, that's in discussion. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so this did pass through Student Life and Diversity and Campus Life, but not through steering. So if you'd like to bring it to the floor now, this time, we're going to need 2/3. So if you would like to do that, please raise your hand. Hi, please. Okay, opposed? 0? Okay. Discussion on policy 9? Mr. Cairns?
Yeah, I think this gets right to the point, and it's exactly what we need. This Friday, basically, the decision's going to be made as far as if there's any increase or not. And if we do want to have legal services, it's important that this $2 increase per semester is made. I commend the job of the committee on doing this and creating this document. Obviously, we never want to increase fees by any matter or ever really kind of add fees because we understand the burden. But long run, $2 for what could actually be thousands of dollars worth of service is not a bad bargain. And this could really give students a clear need that this organization has set and really kind of provide something for the longevity and kind of show something that UPA really did concretely. So I think this will be a major support and also goes a long way of GSA supporting us as well.
Discussion. Representative Szymanski.
Motion and debate.
Is there a second on
I
any
object.
debate? Was there a second on any debate?
Oh, never mind that. Withdrawn.
Okay, are you ready? Further discussion on policy 9.
No, I'm working on the amendment.
Well, Mr. Carvello.
I move to amend the policy to read in the nature of the situation that Student Activity Fee Board Subcommittee has entertained a possibility of raising the student activity fee for the 2009-2010 school year $2 to $5. I think that accurately reflects the state in which the board is in. The board has not formally adopted, we're deliberating that on Friday, but it has been discussed in subcommittee, and I think that more accurately reflects the current scenario. And it says the amendment will be to amend the nature of the situation to read: the Student Activity Fee Board Subcommittee has discussed or entertained an increase in the student activity fee for the 2009-2010 school year to $2 to $5.
Is there a second?
Second.
Objections? Okay, no objections. Moving on, further discussion on policy 9. Who's that knock?
I just have a quick question directed to whoever can answer it. My question is, even if we do pass this resolution, is there any assurance that we have, or any gut instinct that the Student Activity Fee Board might not just raise the fee and not give us legal services? Is it possible that we're making an ultimatum that has no basis behind it? We're just posturing ourselves on an issue that we really can't affect just yet?
No, I think this is, we can have major effect on this. The discussion of legal services will come again on Friday, and I know that through my correspondence, I know that Vice President Sims and Jack Rainey, the chair, have been talking about in terms of a compromise to reach the needs of the Commonwealth students on their issues as far as the creation of legal services, but also still reach our needs to create legal services. At the campus level, they don't want any increase because they don't want this legal services program for their campuses. But at the University Park level, the only reason we would increase the fee is to add these services, and that would be in the amount of $2. And this is at this stage, it is completely necessary to have a formal opinion so that when I go in there with the other representative on Friday, that we can have a clear-cut answer as to what UPUA says, and not just kind of, well, I think this is what UPUA is saying, even though I usually think with it.
Further discussion. Mr. Carvello.
Just to clarify again, Representative Knox's point, what was basically discussed, and maybe Mary can interject if her feelings are different, what was discussed at the subcommittee meeting on Friday, was basically the sentiment in the room from the UPAC representative, the CCHD representative, and my impression from the administration. The point of view that I kind of expressed is that there would be no increase in the activity fee unless it was tied to legal services, unless there was a reasonable expectation that legal service was going to happen and needed to be funded. That seemed to be kind of a consensus, or at least what people suggested at the meeting. And just from interacting with the officers, the organization, talking with a few of you guys, it seemed to be your position too. But I wanted, and I asked Steve's committee to codify the position of UPUA and to bring it before us so that we could have a discussion, if there was discussion, if that perception of mine was wrong. So if it's wrong, this is your time to correct that perception.
Further discussion? Representative Lucas?
This is a question for the President. What kind of agreement can we get realistically from the SAFB about this issue? If we agree to the increase, is that essentially saying on their part that they will form legal services and fund legal services, or what realistically can we get?
Well, it's a two-step part. First, we have to figure out any compromise with the campuses, because the votes are directly tied to their votes. If there's any decision for legal services or any compromise reached, we have to assure them on their concerns. And their concerns basically are that this will set a precedent for the use of, for student affairs at any campus, getting rid of the program that students feel is necessary, and then recreating it by saying, students, you can fund this through your student activity fee. that is that is their position. They feel like this could be misused by chancellors and that nature. And I think it's a respectable opinion, but I think it's something that we can work on and clarify to meet the needs of both parties. If there's any $2 increase or any increase of any number, it would have to directly say that we go directly to legal services for us to vote on it. And I think that's clear. In my opinion, that's exactly what I want. And I think this policy makes that very clear as well.
Discussion. Representative Shemansky?
Motion and debate.
Any objections to any debate on policy 9? Okay. With that, moving into a vote. Roll call, Secretary.
Michael Ollinger,
Yeah.
Gretchen Braun, Justin Mish, Christina Boggs, yes. Mark Cannon,
Yes.
Ralph Cavello,
Yes.
Dustin Dove, Nicholas Heim, Hubert Hines, Andrew Karasik,
Yes.
John King,
Yes.
Sam Loner,
Yes.
Benjamin Lombard,
Yes.
Stephen Lucas,
Yes.
Nick Cant, Sean Malloy, Samantha Miller,
No.
Christopher Morel,
Yes.
Christopher Knopf,
Abstain.
Elliot Goldberg, Reed, okay, Greg Plum, Kelly Potter, Megan Quinn, Christian Ragland, Amy Sanders, Philip Slesser, Richard Shermansky,
Yes.
Pauline Smith, Matthew Smith, Michael Smith, Michael Wallace, and Kara Singer.
Yes.
Anyone need to?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Norman Engel.
Yes.
And
Michelle House.
Janisha.
Alright, sorry, Dean Chang.
Alright, policy 9 passes 21-4. Moving on. Policy number 10, give an introduction. Mr. Harrison?
What you have before you is actually basically correct an oversight on my part as well, and just kind of a bookkeeping everything counted. This provision to allow the academic councils to petition our elections commission in order to permit, in order to place their ballots on the UPUA elections page on election day was in the original elections code that was amended by ID. When we brought it to the floor for the second time and redid some things, we actually removed the wording that allowed this, so we just need to throw it back in there. It was an oversight on my part, it just needs to be done. Shouldn't be really be contested. It's pretty much, it's doing the same thing that we were doing originally, so that's pretty much it.
Questions? Representative Szymanski?
So this basically means that, like, I must have missed this when I was reading over it, but, let's say College of Agriculture, their representative and their president and their vice president will all be on vote.psc.edu that day, or?
If the council petitions the deputy commissioner for information technology to put that ballot on the website, that is correct.
Okay.
Representative Loner?
Do you know, do you have any idea about the feasibility of how this worked in the past? I know sometimes students aren't enrolled in necessarily college right away, or since it's going to be basically in the middle of the spring semester, or just a little bit towards the end, maybe they're intending to enroll in college, they're not there yet. How did the feasibility in the past work?
I don't have any data or know anything, I don't know, I mean, we don't really, I think, Rob, you can correct me on this, I think this is really the first time that we've truly tried to incorporate the elections on this scale into, the council elections on this scale into our regular process. So it's really, I mean, it shouldn't be a contested thing, it's just allowing them to have an online election process and a streamlined election process for their student bodies, so that they really only have to log on once in the spring. Ours has been UPAC, UPUA, and now their councils will be on there. Pretty much everything they would want to elect is in one place for them, which is kind of why we were going for it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I don't have the TV, sorry.
Any other questions? Okay, we have to bring this to the floor by 2/3. So all those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? 1? 2? Abstentions? Okay, discussion on policy 10. Mr. Gavello.
This is something that I've been working very closely with Andrew and the ID committee on. This is really should be the third time it's been brought before you. If you dropped out of the original wording of the document, I think it was forgot to be put in the wording of the election code before. It actually was supposed to come before you in another document, but that document didn't come to the assembly tonight, so we had to bring this out of, or on the floor by 2/3. This has never been done quite like this before, to answer Representative Lohner. I wish Ricardo was here, because the Academic Assembly in USG did have something like this. They did allow councils to participate in the elections in a more full extent than just their what would be equivalent to our delegate type system, but it was never for their full council election. Speaking as an officer in my college council, this concept of kind of centralizing this is good in many ways. One, on a local council level, it's very difficult for us to acquire the resources in order to have college-wide elections. We don't have access to the IT infrastructure and so forth in our college, and so in the past we've had to literally have people either email votes. 3 years ago that happened. I think the last 2 years people have been able to log on to a system, but it's never quite as good as our system that we go through psu.edu. It's a much more comprehensive system. Also, my council really was pushing me to have this included in our code because having a single day of elections where UPAC, UPUA, and I believe ours is having on the same day, although it's a separate system, it's going to increase voter turnout tremendously in our council elections, and of course, vice versa. We hope that people that would be voting more locally would also impact UPUA. For us, this gives us the ability, and this is not too much extra work, but to use the infrastructure already in place the university provides, won't provide to localized levels, and also streamline the process for my council. Since the system's already in place that segments engineering students, it recognizes you're an engineering student to vote just for the engineering senator, rep, and council member. So this is mostly to help increase voter turnout on a local level, and also to streamline the process. And I know that's why my council's been very enthusiastic. I don't know if other councils have been very enthusiastic about this, but this is a completely voluntary system. So this is not imposing, it's just allowing councils like myself and other councils to take advantage of it. Especially, a final point, it's councils that are just starting right now too. This was brought up in discussion that, for those councils who are just starting up and don't have the resources to mount elections on behalf of themselves, because this takes a lot of time. That's why we have a commission ourselves. This could help ease that burden and try and promote democratic elections. So I think there's a whole host of reasons for, and if there are any reasons against, I can't think of any, since it's a purely voluntary system. It's not going to be a huge burden on the commission. So.
The overstretch of internal development, and they're basically searching to find their niche apparently in EPA architecture. I don't think Andrew's ever participated in an academic council election, but for those unfamiliar, and Richard is himself a president, I'm a former president, you need to be able to have an organic element. And while I certainly commiserate with the chair, Rouse, Demellos, experiences in his county or my county. He is an engineering representative, and I was never addressed with this issue. And he's only been to 2 of my meetings this semester, which is his right. But if he has an academic issue, I would hope that you all would hope that I would be able to handle this. I have a copy of the old elections. Andrew already pointed out that it wasn't even included. Ralph has already pointed out it wasn't even included. But on the back of stationery, even though it says committee with 301, it doesn't mean anything. It clearly is only brought up by 2 counselors. So I would hope the other academic representatives will weigh in on this. But once they conclude, I'll probably move the table this. I would hope that you want academic representatives.
Representative Szymanski?
Yes, I would like to stand out a little against this. For one, I think this is best not to be here. I think this just needlessly complicates the election code. For one, it's already gotten us 20 pages long, and it just doesn't need any more. But on top of that, I believe there is a type of like this is not saying a different. In my organization, there is a constitutional point that in order to vote in our election, you have to have attended at least 50% of meetings. And I know that may alienate some of the members or a majority of the liberal arts students, but those are the people that are dedicated to the organization. And I, for one, would not want the organization run by somebody who just happened to get the most amount of votes on a win. I worked very hard for this council. Even though we only had 13 people there when I was elected president, those 13 people were some of the most dedicated people that I've ever seen working for that college. I can only imagine the same way with any other college. I would not want to see just because the majority people say, oh, we want to have this online, and some newcomer just comes in and just wants to run for president, just happens to be in a sorority, a fraternity, and just sweeps the election and then says, well, I'm president, I'm done. No, I attended every single meeting of the Liberal Arts Undergraduate Council, and I was proud to do it. And just to have something like this come along and say, hey, Mr. President, a majority of us want to have this on here, and the entire administration changes. I am adamantly against this, and I would really hope the same to all other academic representatives.
Representative Garrison?
I would point the Academic Affairs Chair to Section 442 of the
Be respectful, please.
of the Student Assembly bylaws. Be charged with Internal Development Committee shall be charged with reviewing and revising the election code, constitution, bylaws, and other governing documents. That's what ID is doing here. We're not overstepping our bounds. It is our job to propose amendments to these documents.
Point of order, this is not considered by committee. That is.
Further discussion? Representative Miller?
I do understand that it is Milanese's jurisdiction to make amendments to the elections code. However, because ID, and I would argue any other committee, including my own, except for academic affairs, is not really well versed in the academic councils and how they operate and what would be best for them. And I'm disappointed that there's no official opinion from the academic affairs committee on this, because especially with the extra time that surveys got left out, it seems only natural that the committee would have been consulted, and I can't vote for this tonight unless it's tabled and I hear their official opinion.
Mr. Correll?
This was a recommendation of the head election commissioner last year after I discussed. I brought this to internal development precisely because it's in their jurisdiction to review the election code, and I do apologize, man. I thought I did at least mention to you. I did not think this was contentious. Go off the point that was mentioned earlier that somehow this is going to force councils to change the way they elect people. That is absolutely wrong. The reason why I did not think this was contentious was because this is a purely voluntary measure. It gives an option to the council to petition the commission. It does not force the council to make it, just like in our senatorial elections. We have to first secure the agreement of the council. This is not even that explicit. This is saying the council has to ask the commission to do that. And in my case, my council would ask the commission. We would forward names and have the commissioner by IT create a ballot, which he's already said he would be more than willing to do. This would not change any election procedures. Councils who didn't want to even take advantage of this, for all they know, they don't have to read the election code, it's not in their provision. I would hope that the representatives would inform their council they have this option, and I just listed 7 or 8 different points of benefit that individual councils can have. This isn't passed tonight. It's going to be included in the code after registration period, and I hate to amend the code when elections are beginning. To me, although the point is validly raised that yes, this probably should have went through academic affairs, or at the very least, I should have made it explicitly clear and had explicit dialogue with the academic affairs committee chairman on this. This is a purely voluntary measure that the council can make use of the system by the commission. It is not forcing anything on them. If we delay it, then we might as well include it. This was a recommendation of the head election commissioner last year. It was an oversight after an oversight on my part. I thought it was in the original code, and when I went to present it to my council saying, hey, look, I did something for you guys, it wasn't in there. And then that's when I actually called Andrew and I said, where did this fall out? I was almost 100% sure it was in here. It was in the dialogue at some point, maybe not explicitly. So while I do understand the frustration of some members and the need for academic things to be reviewed, a voluntary measure that does not mandate anything of anybody, who gives an option to a council like myself, regardless of whether a council is even going to use it or a council even supports it. I don't think that liberal arts should be able to tell the engineering college council that they can't take advantage of this, because that's what would happen if we sent a review and even had it approved by committee. The merits speak for itself. It gives an opportunity for councils. I would hate for this body to deny my council or any other council who wants to take advantage of this system just because we want to postpone it and review it and get another committee. This was discussed at the Internal Development Committee, although it was included in another piece of legislation that was not came out of steering, Samantha, but it did not get passed from committee as a separate document, so you're absolutely right. So I really don't think we need to prolong this debate or think it's implying this is forcing councils to do anything. I really hope that representatives see this as a voluntary measure, one that some councils would like to take advantage of, that was recommended by the head election commissioner last year. It shouldn't be that contentious. It's not mandating anything. And I would urge representatives to vote to amend the elections code for this voluntary measure. Thank you.
Representative Szymanski.
Personally, I don't think a lot of the academic councils would want to have this because I don't see why they would want to have just the most dedicated vote in their, for their executives. I think that opening this up just opens up a needless can of worms. So I would really push for everyone to vote this down.
Representative Lucas.
Chair Cabela, I understand your support of this. I think, though, a lot of us may contend that within UPUA this should have been done differently. What I think this policy proves is that it's symptomatic of how the elections code has been processed this entire year. Unfortunately, we had contention with the elections code to begin with because of academic chair concerns about the representatives for the academic councils, and apparently that committee was not consulted at the time about that part of the document. Subsequently, we've had another issue with academic affairs not being included in this discussion. I don't know how people are going to vote on this issue, but I think internally we need to rethink how we're communicating these issues.
Representative Mott.
Regardless of the merits of these changes, Chair Cabela, do you not think that it's irresponsible and in very words to change the elections code after the election cycle has already begun?
That's a good point, Representative Mott, and that's why I said if this is delayed or tabled, then we might as well just postpone it for another year and deny councils the ability to petition the commission. However, with that said, we're 3 days into registration. Campaigning has not started, and there's over a month before the actual election. This doesn't affect anything in the UPUA election process. This only gives councils the ability to ask the commission to create a ballot using the software that the commission uses on behalf of the council, if the council wants to partake in that. So it doesn't affect at all UPUA election process, UPUA election protocol. It's purely an option for council, and most council elections that I'm aware of haven't begun. And I know my council hasn't begun. The election process hasn't begun, won't begun until after spring break, much like UPUA's. Although I do take strong note of what you're saying about amending the code. The code is allowed to be amended up until the date of the election. That's actually in the code. It was the original draft of the code. Obviously, great concern should be done when doing that. But this doesn't affect UPUA elections at all. It merely gives an option for councils to make use of the current UPUA system, the online electronic system.
Representative Pearson?
Chairman Smith is right. It was it was the committee's omission when we drew up the document, when putting the document that came to steering together. I'd actually said to Ralph at the beginning of that meeting, I forgot to put in the academic council provision. That'll be amended when we bring it to the floor now. As I'll touch on later in my report, I withdrew those two documents from consideration this evening. However, to address why they weren't in there, that is why it was an omission on my part. They were in the original edits of the code when we went back to correct the problems that we had with the faculty senate issues. It was removed, and so that's where we're coming from. I would urge that if academic affairs feels slighted by this, I do apologize. That was not our intention in any way. But if you disagree with allowing a council to decide voluntarily that they may partake in this process, then please vote against it. But don't vote against it if you simply disagree on the process with which it came, because this is an issue that is time sensitive and needs to move forward. So that's what I would ask, and thank you.
Representative Smith?
Response to Chairman Karasik. This is not about a personal slight. It's about something that I've been discussing at the councils. I don't feel that he has the experience that I have with them. I think that goes without saying. You need to understand the nuance of the academic council system here at Penn State University. While I appreciate Chairman Corbello's influence in this matter with him, again, I was a consultant. So, how does the academic council? For one, they could be coerced into having their elections conducted, as it says, in conjunction with our elections. If everyone's elections are made right now, that worsens the state for anyone who is up and coming, who is not going to have elections. Additionally, it's just going to radically change how the student councils perceive their roles here at Penn State. If they were intended to be exactly like UPUA, they would already be. We are not like CCFG, and they are not student government institutions. They are academic councils responsible for academic college, and they handle academic affairs in their own unit. These are not politicians, and what has happened before with the representative and senator amendments is, in my opinion, they were pushed into making their representatives and senators conjoined to one. Now, what I don't want to see with this pair of amendments, the elections code, is having them once again be amended to be something that they are not. They have to be organic to the college to succeed, and you have to understand that. So, I'm currently working on an amendment to this document. If that is okay, I'll present it. But I'll need an amendment, so that's my piece.
Mr. Corbello?
I'll buy you a minute here. I completely agree with Chairman Academic Affairs. No, it was this Everman. This is why I never thought it was contentious. Probably why I didn't have an extensive dialogue with Matt on this. As Chair of the Academic Affairs Committee last year, working with the senatorial language of merging the two representative and senator seats, I understand the delegacy of the nature, and anything to clarify this is purely voluntary measure. I would welcome. I just want to stress, though, that the intent of this was to allow councils to make use of the electronic system that only is available to right now UPUA, CCSG, I believe ARSH, and UPenn. They refuse to allow councils to take part in this, and that's a big burden for the engineering is the largest student body, or college rather, within the university with 5,000 plus students. And we don't have an adequate system in order to allow all of them to do that. We have a general elections process, much like UPUA. We don't require them to come to a meeting or anything like that. And so for us, having the ability not to be able to use this system is very detrimental to us, and is greatly costs a great deal of money as well to use the engineering IT services. We had to pay over $1,000 last year in order to have them engineer something and to make use, and they made us pay for the IT services just because the college doesn't have the resources to spend on things like that. We don't have that money this year. And so I asked Andrew to include this in the creations of ID. It was left out. Accidentally, just much like the miswording accidentally happened a couple weeks ago. And so the intent was not, as Andrew said, to slight anyone or to force this on any council. And I'm really shocked, and this was my fault for thinking it's so contentious. But the whole point was to allow councils to have volunteer. And as representative of my council and another representative, anyone's allowed to bring a resolution to the floor. That's why we have only a 2 requirement for signatures of 2 individuals bringing something to the floor. And I did not think that this was going to be interpreted this way. So I welcome any clarification to make sure this is a purely voluntary basis, that councils are not coerced at all.
Representative Smith.
Okay. This time, I move that there be an amendment to the document on line 39. And it shall read, academic councils, in consultation with the Academic Affairs Committee, chair and representative of their academic unit, shall be extended the right and discontinued to petition.
Is there a second? Any objections to that amendment?
Right here.
Yeah.
Academic councils, in consultation with the Academic Affairs Committee chair and their academic unit representative, shall be extended the right, and then it says to petition.
It's been seconded. Any objections? Okay, no objections. Amendment passes. Further discussion on policy 10. Representative Smith.
Thank you for passing the amendments, and if it would please Representative Szymanski, I'll move to
Any objections? Yes, we did. Yeah. There's only two in opposition to bringing it to the floor. Further discussion on policy 10. Any objections to ending discussion on policy 10? No? Okay. Roll call. Secretary.
Michael Aldinger.
Yes.
Gretchen Ron. Justin Mish. Christina Boggs. Gina Chen. Mark Cannon.
Yes.
Ralph Capella.
Yes.
Dustin Dove. Robin Engel.
Yes.
Nicholas Hine. Hubert Hines. Andrew Karasek.
Yes.
John King.
Yes.
Daniel Lurch. Sam Lohner.
Yes.
Benjamin Lombard.
Yes.
Stephen Lucas.
Abstain.
Nick Mance.
Yes.
Sean Malloy. Samantha Miller. Christopher Morrell.
Yes.
Christopher Knock.
Abstain.
Reed Patay. Yes. Greg Hum. Without you, I don't know. Megan Quinn. Christian Ragland.
Abstain.
Amy Sanders. Yes. Philip Slusser. Richard Szymanski.
Yes.
Pauline Smith. Yes. Matthew Smith. Michael Smith. Michael Wallace.
Yes.
Kara Zinger.
Yes.
Policy 10 passes 2106. Moving on to liaison reports. Graduate Student Association, Joanne Larson.
President Kieran said everything I had to say with the exception of there was strong support for legal services as long as it included immigration and deportation issues because most of a good proportion of our constituency is international students. So.
Any questions? No? Okay, Arsh.
All right, I have a few things. First off, congratulations to everybody who participated in Bond this weekend. Second off, Arsh has internal elections at our next meeting, which is March 2nd. So we are going to hold a paper meeting and then hold internal elections. Secondly, it was moved last night that our March 16th meeting, which is the first meeting after spring break, will also be a paper meeting followed by a closed Arsh session to discuss Arsh's current position on the recreation facility.
Any questions? Report by the association directors and staff. Chief of Staff, Mr. Anderson.
It was my pleasure to use the new copier paper this evening. Thanks to Treasurer Justin Weiner for sorting all of that out. We actually overestimated the costs pretty drastically, so if we need more, we can do that too. We do have money left over in that office supplies fund. Other than that, the report's in front of you, and we'll all stand for questions.
Any questions for any of the directors? Mr. Gabello?
Doesn't look like Adam's here tonight. You said in past money to advertise the book exchange. I was just wondering, is any member of the executive board currently working with academic affairs in an attempt to utilize that fund or promote the book exchange in any way?
Not that I'm aware of. I remember earlier on Adam Ferrone being appointed to work on that, but I haven't heard from him in a couple of weeks. So, is Gavin out there?
No.
I'll get back to you.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on. Committee reports. Steering, Mr. Gabello.
The report is in front of you. The only thing that I have, in addition to 9 points, is that we only have 2 meetings after this left of the third assembly. So some of you might be jumping joy, others might regret it. Also, new representatives who I have not already talked with, please come see me after the meeting. And Representative Hines, I don't see him here, he might have went downstairs, but he'll be back. Could you please tell him, Representative Knock, to see me after the meeting as well? I'll stand for questions.
Questions? Okay, moving on. Internal development. Chairman Karasik.
The Internal Development Committee, I apologize, I was getting through the water. The Internal Development Committee passed a resolution, 2 resolutions, excuse me, that effectively, as you can see at the top of my report, and you'll apologize for the part that remains from last week, I forgot to put a new one on there for you. The committee passed 2 policies that effectively effectively created it such that we would be adding 2 at-large representatives to our assembly, and those 8 at-large representatives total would be the elected members to UPenn. This had been a policy that had been discussed and steering for 4 weeks straight. Opposition had come up 2 weeks ago from Chairman Smith and some others. We worked to address that. We then brought a plan of action to the table. Some more opposition was mentioned. It was then suggested by some members that it still be brought to the floor. After a long and heated discussion on behalf of the committee, I elected to withdraw those documents, seeing as it was not in the best interest of the students nor the organization to bring that to the floor and to move forward with that after hearing the points in steering. So that's with full transparency. That's why those are not in front of you tonight. That issue will no longer be explored, at least in this session, as we have run out of time to explore the incorporation of UPenn seats. Other than that, we have the executive board nominee for LGBTA affairs will be coming next week. We have a budgetary amendment proposed by Chairman Crivello that ID is reviewing, and that is really it. Welcome Chrissy to our committee. Nice to finally have a woman in the room with us since it's been a very long time. You may be the first one in history on ID actually.
Watch.
Congratulations. And other than that, I'll take questions.
Questions? Representative Nance.
I know this is kind of more related to the election commission. Do you know, I know we have up until this Monday to file. Does that include also getting our 100 signatures? Or however many signatures you need, I should say.
Very good, Steve. Am I addressing the question?
Sure. I just wanted to know if one of the things that we had to do in order to file for the election by this Monday was to get the amount of signatures we need to run for whatever seat.
Okay. You can file to be a registered candidate by next Friday, March 6th. Basically, if we're running the president or vice president and 200 signatures with a combined ticket, if we're running for off-campus, on-campus, at-large, or IFCC, we need 100 signatures. And if we're running for an academic seat, we do not need any signatures this year. Any other commission law?
So we have until next Friday.
Next Friday, basically, what you have to do, you have to come in, pick the registration packet. After you pick up the registration packet, fill that out, and come back, we do the second packet where you can go and you go and get your signatures and everything. Basically, you need to be able to say you're a registered person first before you can start asking people to sign it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for internal development? Okay, moving on. Programming. Chairman King?
We have our work cut out for us for finalizing the budget for Wallace Tourism. You can add to that in a couple seconds. We're also organizing the ice cream social for the UPDA elections. If you have any ice cream flavor ideas that you're really dying to eat, just tell me about that. With that, I yield the floor.
Will there be sprinkles?
We're including that in the budget. There's chocolate and a rainbow. And chocolate syrup and whipped cream. No.
What is that question?
What about
Hot fudge.
We won't be able to have a microwave out there, so I don't think.
What about like a crock pot?
Representative Morel, can you stand? Because I can't hear your question.
No, I said how about a crock pot for
We haven't considered that. We'll consider it.
Okay, any other questions? Any other questions for Chairman King?
I yield the floor to Paul.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks so much for the lively basically, what I kind of need from you guys is anybody who would like to help me out with Guadalajara. We have a lot of work to do. I have to submit a budget, or not a budget, but a budget tomorrow about 5 o'clock p.m. So I'm gonna, if anybody would like to help out, I'm not from the committee, so if you'd like to stick around after the meeting, that would be more. Let me think, what else is there?
Want to say any questions?
Yes.
Okay, great. Any questions for Representative Wallace?
I'm actually not going to disclose that information. It's not.
Any other questions?
I think you're going to
Mr. Cairns?
Yeah, I just have a comment. I think everybody kind of thought of this early on as something that wasn't going to happen, but I do want to commend the work of Mike and King for really trying to take this on and trying to make it happen in not a amount of time. Take a compliment. I think you guys are working hard, and it's really a possibility that it could happen. So.
Thank you for saying that there is really a possibility that this might happen. On the other hand, this is going to happen. I appreciate some lessons. No, another thing, I actually just thought of this, was programming has, is it 3,000 available for this, John? Yeah. $3,000 available to fund some things that the PAC is not going to fund. And we could use a heck of a lot more money. So I also urge the committee chairs to possibly stick around after the meeting
Okay, moving on, thank you. Facilities, Chairman Mance.
Okay, I attended what's called the IM feasibility project meeting today, Friday on the 3rd. It was actually one of the preliminary meetings of this week, always funded I personally was expecting it to be a lot more about, like how much all this stuff is going to cost, and it ended up being just kind of more, what ideas they had, some things perfect, whether or not they would be feasible to move forward with, or something to the facilities people. Speaking of the facilities people, we only have a date, time, and location, place for that. I just have to get the names of the members to the president, which I'll give shortly after the meeting. It's March 4th at 3:30. I was also asked by Chairman Corrella to allow the Board of Arbitration to take over the board when I referred to until then as the Student Park Tickets Appeals Committee. Josh from the Board of Arbitration will take that over very shortly. I'm sure the system needs it. Also, we're going to be continuing up the task force meeting for our regarding commons area environmental meetings. Partially as
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Academic Affairs, Chairman Smith.
Okay, first I'd like to report. I'm gonna hit things a little bit out of order, but to try and start strong and strong. We had HHD added a delegate yesterday, so now we're up to 22 members. Programming, this is the representative Lombard. Our academic council conference, April 16th. The student advisory committee for ITS, myself, Amy, Representative Senator Zari, and Camilla Rose and Representative Okelberg will be there Friday. So if you want to attend, that is an open meeting, but we represent students on the board at the Design Academic Affairs Committee. So it's Friday at 5 p.m. at 141 Computer Building, which is just after the board. You won't miss much if you want to come to that. And the business that we did in the last meeting, so yeah, last Thursday, is the consultative report on the back of my report. You can read that. Consultative reports are voted on by all members, so that can compare from the delegates and representatives. That's why it says 15, even though there's clearly more than there are those were in the attendance, and that was distributed to all the trying to push the
Questions? Nope, thank you. Governmental Affairs, Chairman Miller.
You have my report in front of you. A few things I do want to touch on. I want to thank Mike Smith, Colleen Smith, and Dustin and Doug very much for waking up very early Tuesday morning to rush to Harrisburg, deliver the legislation we passed last week to Governor Rendell's office in person as we promised, and drive all the way back all in time for class. So I appreciate their commitment very much. It was nice not having to make the trip alone, and I think it shows how dedicated the entire committee is to the cause we're trying to pursue. I want to touch on Tuition Awareness Day. It is coming up this Wednesday. I passed our sign-up sheet last week. I'm going to do another one electronically. If you already put your name on it, I'll include that on the electronic copy I pass out. Please give us as much time as possible on Wednesday. We're going to be at Old Main from 12 to 1, and all day there's going to be activities on the first floor of the hub, including student speakers, letter signing that's going to be delivered to Harrisburg on March 15th for North Valley. CCHD will be there signing people up. Hopefully the Penn State Grassroots Network will have literature there. Student Connecting Council is going to be there to distribute information about donor gifts and annual giving to Penn State, so we can see how different the numbers are in those offices as opposed to what we get from Harrisburg and things like that. We're inviting the other PA public schools to their schools. So if there's any help we can get from that, we appreciate it. A couple things I didn't on campus, the recent developments. Friday at 1:30 in the office, we're going to have an open work session to work for Wednesday, kind of tie up some ends. So anyone interested in getting involved, please feel free to stop by. We did invite Senator Piccola, who recently proposed, he's kind of the Republican opposition to what Rendell proposed in terms of higher education. And he wants to include the state-related universities in on getting extra funding, and he doesn't want to do it through video poker. There's other programming cuts he wants to make, certain museums, some of the private institutions that get money, like Drexel and UPenn. So we invited him to speak on that. Governmental Affairs hasn't passed an opinion on whether or not they're supporting that, because you have to be wary of cutting any student funds, even if it's student funding and things like that. But it's something we will be discussing. He's not available on the 4th, but we are going to set up another date. He will be at college on the 23rd. We'll try and get something earlier than that to keep it momentum, and also, if need be, and that's the only time we transition into town member is doing this in the new assembly stuff, when we'll be way beyond elections. Also tomorrow, I have a conference call with the Student Empowerment Training Program. They've gotten in contact with some different student associations around the country to help us create ours and to look at models that they're basically peer models, like in Texas and California, and they have some exciting developments up there, so I'll be talking with them tomorrow to continue this goal. So, that was a lot, sorry, any questions?
Questions? Representative Szymanski?
Was the governor nice?
He was not there,
Oh,
but it's just nice.
oh, that's cool.
Other questions? Just so I'm clear, okay, so March 4th, was there another day in between the 4th and the 16th that we're doing something? Or
The
did I make that
18th is rally.
Right.
The 16th is Capital Day.
Yes.
We can, if we want to, get cars together to go help CCSG deliver literature on that day. We're not doing anything official, but people who are interested in that can go through your email me. I'm going to talk to you more about CCSG because they're going to be the ones putting together that list.
Right. And for the 4th, is there, I understand like the ground forces, petitions and stuff like that. Are there speakers from 12 to 1?
Hopefully the governor will come out of time. We also have invitations at Spain, talking to Consulate. We're also going to have probably a representative from the Office of Annual Giving and things there, like a written proposal, and someone from the Office of Governmental Affairs.
Okay.
So we're keeping it to like headliners, if you will, between 12 to 1.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Okay, diversity in campus life. Chairman Lucas.
Hello everyone. I'd like to thank my committee and the Assembly for passing the student activity fee opinion policy. I think it's really important that we take a stance on an issue. Hopefully we'll see legal services through in the next year. In other news, we're working on the cultural roundtable with President Christian and so Representatives Knock and Ragland have been doing a fantastic job. If you're interested in attending that event, please contact them. They're working on a guest list and engaging student leaders across campus to attend. I'm personally working on finishing the fall semesterly. I just got Chair Cavella's letter to the Assembly, waiting on other pieces of information reflecting upon the fall legislation so that we can print that as soon as possible. And I'd also like to recognize Director Connie Raja. She's been working hard on a replacement to FitCap in Women's Affairs and taking lead on that. She has a proposal in the works, so if you're interested in providing input, as I am, please contact her.
Questions? Okay, thank you very much. Comments for the good of the order. Representative Szymanski.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone here who was involved with Bond one way, shape, or form, whether you were a dancer, went on the floor, morale, or anything. I was on the floor, and the dancers just loved it when you were there speaking to them, even though they may not know who you were or what time it was, or, even if you were a figment of their imagination, but still, they had fun. And, thank you all for putting so much effort into it. We raised a record amount. I was under the impression we weren't even going to raise maybe $100 grand over what we raised last year, but we ended up raising $800. So, kudos to everybody who was involved. It was a great thing. It was just very nice to see the families' faces and how happy they were. So, congrats.
Representative Warner.
My first comment from getting over, I might have one later, is I hope that sometime before Friday, some of us, particularly Mr. Harrison and Mr. Kieran's, do significant outreach to CCSG regarding the activity fee, because in my opinion, it's basically, George Corey decides how the Commonwealth students vote. So I hope there's going to be a lot of outreach this time and a lot better communication before, so we're either A, not surprised, or hopefully we'll have no reason to be surprised. And if we are surprised, we'll know in advance.
President Knock?
Hey everybody, the student organization task force has standing UPUA seats that are currently going mainly because of a lot of scheduling conflicts. And Jennifer Grossman-Weber hit me up about that and was like, oh, we need to fill these seats. So tomorrow, well, the focus group's going, pardon my language, the focus group's going on, and one of them is actually tomorrow, you can write this down, from noon to 2 o'clock in 208 Hub. These focus groups are, I guess, about organization stuff. You know, you might want to get in on that. So the first one is Thursday at noon, and it'll end by 2 o'clock at 208 Hub. And the second one is Saturday from 2 to 4 and 321 Hub. And she would really appreciate it if UPUA's input was there. We do have seats on this, and she said more than one person to come, like 5 people to come. She just needs, UPUA people in the room.
Representative Kennedy, do you have a comment or a question? Comment for the good of the order? Okay.
I yield the floor to Head Commissioner Christine.
Briefly, just want to say that Commissioner Lockman and I will be in the office if anybody wants to come by and register for the meeting.
Thank you. Representative Harrison?
Best dress this evening, we have Kissables and a Snickers bar. First, Colleen gets it for best dressed from Monday. Her dress has a nice sequin, her skirt has a nice wonderful. Very, very nice dress. Annie, you get it tonight, as well as Mr. Hines, and as always, Mr. Wallace. He seems to dress to impress everyone.
Lovely. Representative Wallace?
First off, the award for best one goes to Mr. Cassidy. He's so happy. If anyone would like to get involved if anyone would like to get involved with Wallapalooza, please. She has so much to say. Anyway, if you want to get involved with Wallapalooza, it's going to be huge. No, stick around after the meeting. Just a couple minutes. All right, thank you.
Further comments? Representative Nance?
Off of what Representative Shemansky said, I just want to congratulate everyone else who was involved in some, I would say the answer was here, and I just wanted to express my gratitude and appreciation for everyone who sent us up, sent me things that came down this evening. I was lucky to be one of the answers that had at least a good idea of what was going on most of the time, and I really appreciate it.
Other comments? Okay. Roll call, Secretary.
Michael Altner.
Here.
Mike Anderson.
Here.
Gretchen Braun. Here. Justin Mish. Christina Boggs. Here. Ruth Kinnaraja. Here. Chris Caswell.
Here.
Gina Chang. Here. Mark Cannon.
Here.
Someday I'll be here. Ralph Ravello.
Here.
Justin Dove. Robin Engel. Here. Adam Perone. Pat Gordon. Nicholas Hine. Stuart Hines. Andrew Kersick.
Here.
Gavin Kieran. John King.
Here.
Daniel Lurch. Sam Loner,
Here.
Benjamin Lombard, Stephen Lucas, Nick Mant,
Here.
Haley McClurnan, Kayla McPherson, Sean Malloy, Samantha Miller, Christopher Morrell, Jose Kaman, Christopher Knopf, Ellie Ockelberg, Joanne Olson, Bree Patel, Greg Plum, Brian Poland, Kelly Potter, Megan Quinn, Christian Ragland, Valerie Russell, Amy Sanders, Philip Slusser, Richard Shermansky, Catherine Smeals, Colleen Smith, Matthew Smith, Michael Smith, Ricardo Torres, Ian Vickery, Michael Wallace, Cindy Long, Max Wenkus, Justin Wiener, Kara Zinger, Nicole Zinn.
Thank you, this meeting is adjourned.